Scott Golden, Golden Opportunities Coaching here, and the @PO Perception Twitter account as well. Thank you for those of you who are new here. If you are new here, please subscribe. There is daily audio available on this YouTube channel for your perusal, and share with your friends if you can. It helps us to grow and continue to be of service. Today we're going to talk about something that is super important, and that is the importance of staying in alignment with your highest good or highest purpose. You know, so often people live a life based on what they think they should do. They live a life based on their shoulds. I should be thinner. I should spend time with my children, with my wife, with my husband. I should have a better job. I should go back to school. I should all these things. And most often, the shoulds have no passion behind them, and often, even less often, follow through that doesn't get them where they want to be. And it's not because they're lazy, but it's because if you are doing something because you should, you aren't in alignment with your highest purpose, because a should means you're living someone else's version of life and not your own. The rules and regulations that we all follow, some of them are obviously legalistic laws, others are social normalcy, in other words, social expectation, and others are familiar or family expectation. All of them, though, can be partially challenged or challenging. That is to say the following: it does not mean that we shouldn't take into account what other people think or feel, but you have to take into account how you feel about taking a certain action and whether you're willing to commit to the action or not. And if you are not willing to commit to the action, look at what is in your highest good. In your highest good is the reality of a couple of things. One, do things only that lead you forward. Do things only that lead you into a progressive state of being, because the things that you do not want to tackle, the things that you do not want to handle today, are not going to just suddenly become really enjoyable tomorrow. In other words, what that means in practical terms is you have to gain a relationship with the power of momentum before you can find the willingness to do things you ought not, or do things you do not want to do. Now, it can be difficult to force yourself to try to be what another person thinks you should be, to take a certain career, to marry or stay in a relationship that isn't working, and to spend time with people that you're not comfortable with. And it's not to say that we should be completely selfish, but here's the catch-22 in most situations. If you are doing something strictly out of obligation, then you actually are doing it in a form of appeasement that will cause negative emotion to well up inside you. Be that resentment, be that lethargy, be that laziness, be that frustration, be that anger, be that disingenuous nature. Whatever it may be, that negative emotion will well up inside you. When you are in your highest alignment, you can tackle things you never thought you could, because you have a proper relationship with momentum. Momentum is the thing that keeps you going, sometimes called motivation, but it's that motivating factor that makes you believe the things you have not done before are possible, and also makes you believe that it is worthwhile to continue towards a certain outcome, desire, progressive mindset. When you don't have a relationship with that, when you're doing something from the lower place of appeasing somebody else and having no passion behind it, eventually it will affect your performance. It will also affect your level of energy. It will affect your mindset. It will affect your focus. It will affect the meaning you give to doing it. Oh, I have to do this again, versus I get to do this again. The difference being from opportunity to obligation, and it will affect everything and everyone around you who is affected by your lack of motivation. Now, finding a way to be in alignment is to say, I care how I feel. Also, balancing that with, I'm not intentionally trying to do harm to another person. And if the decision I make or the thing that I feel is going to do harm, I get out of that situation as quickly as possible. In other words, if you are in a relationship where you really no longer desire to be there, obviously you don't go up to the person and say, "Hey, I completely regret you," but you do say softer things like, "I don't know that this is working for us. I don't know that this is working for me. I want the best for you. I'm not sure if this is working or not." And then, if you're in a job that's underfulfilling, you go to your boss and you say, "How can we work together to bring the best out of my skills? Because I don't know that that's happening here. I don't feel like that's happening here. Are you willing to let me grow and expand and do other things? Or is this not the best fit?" Most often, here's the reality of truth. People know the truth within themselves. People know the truth within their higher self, but they deny it based on what other people tell them. In other words, someone can feel just a gut instinct when another person isn't happy in a relationship, or they can feel when a person isn't happy in, whatever that is. And it's difficult to look at relationships and dealing with other people in a way that's positive and progressive when we're not being authentic to ourselves. When you're feeling authentic, things that didn't seem possible before become possible. When you're feeling authentic, the things that you never thought you could do suddenly become things you think you can manage. There's a way and an approach and a reality to everything you're trying to accomplish. That is the power of being in alignment with yourself. When you're in alignment, you know your value. When you're in alignment, you see the value of being honest more than being popular, because popularity cannot last without honesty. If there's not a true connection with another person, you cannot force yourself to feel a certain way, or to be a certain way, or to believe a certain thing. You can fake it, which is what most people do. That's why all of a sudden we look at happiness, we look at rates of divorce, and we look at engagement in workplaces, and we see that workplace engagement is an all-time low. Why is that? Because people say they're fine when they're not. Why are divorce rates so low? Because people say they're fine when they're not. Why are people's levels of depression and anxiety and frustration and sadness so high? Why do we have the issues we do related to the challenges of emotional and mental illness that we do? It's not because the world is broken. It's because people don't live in alignment enough. Because we're taught counterproductory programming. We're taught be popular. We're taught make other people happy. We're taught to listen to what's best for everyone else, almost to the exclusion many times of ourselves. And so then we're taught care how you feel. Care how you feel is secondary to make sure everyone else is taken care of first, and that creates people that live out of alignment. If you're in alignment, you look at the world with wonder. If you're in alignment, you are looking at the world in terms of what is possible versus what is not possible. If you're in alignment, you look at letting someone in your life go if things aren't working for them, rather than trying to force them to stay with you just because you're afraid to be alone. If you're in alignment, you believe that there's a world full of 7 billion people. Wow, killed off a lot of people there. But anyway, 7 billion people, and that somebody gets you, that there are people who get you. When you are in alignment, you see yourself as growing and progressing and able to contribute to the world. Now, when that alignment doesn't exist, what begins to happen is you doubt yourself. Doubt internally is a sign that you are out of alignment in almost every situation. Doubt of a situation, doubt of a professional or personal relationship, doubt of your ability. It means you've lost the sight of center of who you are. And what happens is the more that doubt compounds, it will actually change the structure of your brain in a negative way that'll make you think, I'm never going to get better. It'll make you think, I'm broken, or there's something wrong with me, or people are always going to judge me. The entire world's going to judge me. The entire world thinks this or that about me. And here's a startling truth. The majority of people aren't thinking about you because they're too worried about what you're thinking about them. Now, I want you to think about that a minute. How many times have you walked into a room and thought, gee, wonder what she's thinking of me over there? Gee, he didn't even look me in the eye. What's he thinking of me? Now, they're thinking, I didn't look him in the eye. What's he thinking of me? Gee, I wonder if he saw me. Wonder if she is even looking at me. They're thinking about your relationship to them, and you're doing the same. So guess what? Ultimately, we are self-contained creatures who care very much about what other people think of us, but the problem is we don't recognize that in order to be in alignment, we have to care more about what we're projecting for ourselves. If you want to make a new friend, just be yourself and realize that a true friend is going to accept you where you are, who you are, for who you are. And yes, there are people who will change based on the influences of others. Those people, though, are responding to external cueing and the need for social performance rather than the desire to truly reject you. Every harsh person is doing it out of a higher good place. Now, sometimes that higher good place is self-protection. Sometimes that higher good place is they don't want to have a complete confrontation with you, so they will try to divert a conversation. Sometimes that higher good place is they don't know how to tell you something, so they avoid that confrontation because they're not trying to cause you pain. Sometimes that higher good place is they want to feel good about themselves and they believe someone else will do it. In other words, even a negative action has a higher good consequence to it, or let me say that differently, a higher good motive to it. Just most often we don't think that way. Very few people, except for those with severe mental imbalances, actually intend to cause harm to another person. The intention usually is to protect themselves from some sort of perceived harm, because our brains are wired to actually protect us first in almost every situation. Our brains are wired for personal protection. And so when we think that there's a danger coming, when we think that something is going wrong or is about to go amiss, the automatic thought is, how do I protect myself? How do I protect myself from danger? How do I protect myself from ridicule? How do I protect myself from rejection? How do I protect myself, my public image, from looking foolish? And those things, the minute you go into a place of protection, you're out of alignment with your true self, because the truth is, you don't have to be liked by everyone to be liked by people who matter. The truth is, you don't have to be good at everything to thrive in life. And so often we live in an all or nothing mindset. We live in an all or nothing society, and that all or nothing society makes us begin to doubt our own value, and then that doubt leads to anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and all these other things. Not because we're broken, not because there's something wrong with us, but because our focus is off balance, and our alignment with our true purpose and who we really are is ultimately off balance as well. There are a million ways to get yourself back in center. You can use music, you can use sound, you can use recordings like this one, you can use journaling, you can use meditation, you can use prayer. There's a million ways to get yourself back to your center. But when you are beginning to feel off balance, when you are beginning to feel that there's nothing left for me to do that's good, that's a sign you need to shift, stop, and change your focus, and make your focus more about what you can't do what you can do than what you can't do. And it's so important, because the truth of where we are and the truth of where we're going is that life is a constant evolution. And the more evolutionary our thinking, the more evolutionary our mindset, the more evolutionary we view the world, the easier it becomes to be of service to ourselves with being in alignment, to live our personal purpose professionally, in relationships, in our inner life, and in every other way. I encourage you to subscribe to this channel once again. I encourage you to comment below. And before we close for today, I remind you, keep your feet on the ground. Your mind in the moment. Scott Golden, Golden Opportunities Coaching. See you tomorrow.